All right. Buckle up, everybody, because today we're diving deep into feel-good productivity, and I have a feeling you're going to love this one.
I think so too.
If you are listening to this deep dive, you are probably looking for that sweet spot between getting things done,
Yes,
but not turning into a ball of stress, right?
absolutely.
We've got a stack of fascinating research here for you all about finding joy in the journey and not just at the finish line.
Yeah, and we're pulling insights from all over the place, psychology, behavioral science.
Mm.
We even have some fun detours into video games and Disney classics.
Speaking of fun,
Okay?
did you know that even physicists need to lighten up sometimes?
Oh, absolutely.
We are going to kick things off with Richard Feynman, total genius, won a Nobel Prize, the whole bit.
Mm-hmm.
But guess what?
What's that?
Even he battled burnout.
Yeah, that's true.
It's true.
And you know what's so relatable about that? I think it happens to the best of us.
It really does.
But what's so fascinating about Feynman is that he actually found his way back to passion through play. It wasn't about forcing himself or anything like that.
Yeah.
It was about tapping back into that childlike curiosity that we all have.
Oh, and get this. It all started with a wobbling plate.
Really?
You know, those flimsy cafeteria plates?
Oh, yeah.
He saw one wobbling, and instead of, just grabbing a tray like a normal person, he went down this rabbit hole of equations.
Classic Feynman,
As you do.
as one does.
And that playful curiosity led to groundbreaking work on quantum electrodynamics, which snagged him that Nobel Prize.
Amazing.
Who knew a wobbly plate could be so inspiring?
You just never know what's going to spark that curiosity, right?
Right.
It's a great example of how play isn't just a distraction from work.
Yeah.
It's essential for giving our minds a break, especially when we're feeling fried or burnt out. That mental refresh can be the key to unlocking major breakthroughs.
Like hitting the reset button.
Totally.
Which honestly, that makes me think about when I was like obsessed with World of Warcraft. I mean, it wasn't always thrilling, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But escaping into that world, choosing my character,
Which one was yours?
Sephiroth the Blood Elf Warlock, in case you're wondering.
Nice.
The pure fun.
Choosing your character, that's a great point. And I think that idea can actually be applied to work, too.
Okay.
You know, psychologist Stuart Brown, he talks about different play personalities. He identifies 8 types: the joker, the kinesthete, the director, just to name a few.
So are you saying that there's a way to figure out our own play style and actually use it to make work more enjoyable?
Exactly.
Tell me more.
So let's say you're a natural storyteller, right?
Okay.
Maybe you can find ways to turn those boring reports into, well, stories. Or if you're more of a creator, maybe that spreadsheet becomes a visually awesome infographic.
Love that.
It's about tapping into what comes naturally to you and what you find fun.
Okay. I am so into this.
Good.
So how do we actually find more play in our everyday lives, especially when it feels like we're drowning in to-do lists asking for a friend?
Well, we were just talking about Feynman with the plate.
Yeah.
Finding inspiration in a simple everyday thing. It's about bringing that sense of adventure and curiosity back into our routines, even in little ways.
Okay.
Like, instead of taking the same route to work every day, maybe you take a different route
No.
or you try that new coffee shop down the street.
Like little side quests. I love a good side quest in a video game.
Yes, exactly.
You stumble upon something unexpected and exciting.
There's actually a study from New York University that found that people who tried something new, even something small, they reported feeling happier and more relaxed. It's like tricking your brain into thinking, ooh, this is an adventure.
Ooh. I am all about tricking my brain into feeling good.
Yes.
Which, you know what else does that? The spoonful of sugar philosophy from Mary Poppins?
Classic.
Turning chores into something fun?
It's not just genius.
Yeah.
It's science.
Okay.
When we focus on enjoying the process of a task, not just the end result, our brains release dopamine. That's your motivation and pleasure chemical right there.
So it's like, instead of dreading folding laundry, I should be blasting music and pretending I'm in a music video.
There you go.
All right, sign me up.
Think about Olympic climbers, right?
Okay.
They're not just fixated on winning the gold medal.
Right.
They're completely present, enjoying the challenge, the physicality of it.
Right.
And that's what keeps them motivated and resilient, even when they're under immense pressure.
It's about reframing those I have to moments into I get to moments.
I love it.
And speaking of reframing,
Yes.
we got to talk about failure.
Okay.
It can feel like the end of the world, but what if it wasn't?
What if it was just information?
Information.
Yeah.
Okay, I like that.
like feedback.
Right, and engineer Mark Rober did this study where people tried coding challenges,
Right.
and some were penalized for failing.
Uh-huh.
And guess what?
What?
They gave up way faster than the other group.
Yeah, that makes sense, though.
Right.
Because that fear of messing up, it's like it totally stifles creativity.
Totally.
Because when we're so focused on avoiding mistakes, we don't experiment, we don't take risks, and that's really where the real learning happens.
So it's about cultivating that experimental mindset,
Yeah.
seeing those failures as beta points, not disasters.
Yeah, exactly.
I like that.
Sometimes it's about bringing a little bit of sincerity instead of seriousness. That could be the key.
Oh, tell me more about this whole sincerity thing.
Well, it's about approaching things with a sense of playfulness,
Okay.
Like we've been talking about, when we're too serious, we get rigid, we put all this pressure on ourselves.
Right.
But when we loosen up a little bit, we open ourselves up to new possibilities.
Yeah, that's a good point. So less seriousness, more sincerity, I can get behind that.
Yeah.
It's like that saying, don't take life too seriously, you'll never get out alive.
Right. A little humor goes a long way.
Okay.
But speaking of things that we often do take very seriously,
Yeah.
let's shift gears a little bit to another pillar of feel-good productivity.
Okay.
Power.
Okay, I gotta be honest. When I hear the word power, I'm picturing like a corporate villain in a movie.
Sure.
Not exactly feel-good vibes.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
But this isn't about dominating others or like climbing some imaginary ladder.
Yeah, okay.
It's about feeling empowered in your own work, in your own life.
Okay.
Think of it more as personal agency, that feeling of being in the driver's seat.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes way more sense.
Right.
So how do we cultivate that feeling then?
Yeah.
Especially if you know we're in a job or situation where we don't necessarily feel super in control.
That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
Right. And I think a lot of it boils down to our beliefs about ourselves and what we're capable of.
Mm.
Remember that whole story of Netflix versus Blockbuster?
Oh, yeah. Netflix with its like chill freedom and responsibility vibes, and then Blockbuster with its very like old school rules.
Exactly.
At a showdown.
Total showdown. And Netflix gave their employees a ton of autonomy. They trusted them to own their work. And that sense of ownership was a huge factor in their ability to adapt and innovate, while Blockbuster.
Wow. They became ancient history.
Right.
It's kind of mind-blowing how much a company's culture can impact its success.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It all ties back to that feeling of empowerment that we're talking about. When people feel trusted and in control, they're more engaged, they're more motivated, and way more productive.
It's like that study where they convinced a group of women that they were just naturally good at exercising.
Oh, yeah.
Regardless of like their actual fitness level.
Yeah, and they ended up not only performing better, but enjoying the workouts more, even when things got tough. That, my friend, is the power of self-efficacy.
Self-efficacy, okay.
Yeah.
Sounds very technical.
I know, right?
Break it down for me.
It's simply the belief in your own ability to succeed.
Okay.
And the cool thing is it's not something you're born with.
Okay.
It's a skill that you can develop over time.
So it's like a muscle you can strengthen.
Exactly.
Okay, I like that. So how do we pump those self-efficacy muscles? Give me the workout routine.
Well, psychologist Albert Bandura found that a lot of it comes down to the way we talk to ourselves. Positive self-talk isn't just some fluffy concept.
Okay.
It can actually have a real impact.
You know what that reminds me of? When I used to perform as a magician,
Uh-huh.
and I was terrified of stage fright,
Oh, yeah.
but I learned to just like act confident even if I felt like a scared rabbit inside.
Fake it till you make it, right? There's actually science behind that. Bandura called it verbal persuasion. We can literally talk ourselves into feeling more confident.
No way.
It's true.
So besides giving ourselves pep talks in the mirror, like what else can we do?
Surrounding yourself with the right people is huge. But Bandura also talked about vicarious mastery,
Okay.
which is basically gaining confidence by observing other people who are killing it in their fields.
It's like having those mentors or role models that inspire you to level up your own game.
Totally.
If they can do it, maybe I can too.
Right. Exactly. Their stories become a roadmap showing you what's possible.
I love that.
And it's not just about watching others succeed. It's about racking up your own wins, no matter how small.
Okay.
Every time you master a new skill, you're building that self-efficacy muscle.
It's like that feeling in a video game when like your character levels up and unlocks new abilities.
Exactly.
Yes.
Each win, big or small, fuels your confidence to take on the next challenge. And even seasoned pros they can benefit from this.
Okay.
Phil Jackson,
Oh, yeah.
legendary basketball coach.
Multiple NBA championship.
Exactly.
You guys a legend.
He approached every season with what he called a Shoshin mindset.
Shoshin.
Yeah.
Sounds like a martial art.
It's a Zen Buddhist concept that means beginner's mind.
Okay.
It's about approaching things with a sense of openness and curiosity, like you're seeing them for the first time, even if you're an expert.
So even if you're at the top of your game, there's always more to learn.
Exactly.
I like that. It's like that saying, the only true wisdom is in knowing you know nothing.
I love that. And speaking of learning,
Yeah.
have you ever noticed that when you teach something to someone else, you understand it even better?
Oh, totally. Whenever I try to explain something to someone else, it's like I unlock a whole new level of understanding myself.
That's the protege effect in action. Taking on the role of a teacher or mentor, even in a small way. It forces you to engage with the material on a deeper level, which strengthens your own knowledge and skills.
It's like a superpower.
It is.
By helping others, we end up helping ourselves, too.
Totally.
So how does all of this connect back to feel-good productivity?
It all circles back to intrinsic motivation. That fire that comes from within, fueled by genuine interest and a sense of ownership. Psychologists call this the self-determination theory.
So it's not about the external rewards or the pressure. It's about finding that inner drive that makes you want to jump out of bed in the morning.
Exactly. And when we feel a sense of ownership over our work, our motivation, it skyrockets. And that sense of ownership is amplified when we believe in our ability to make a real difference.
That makes me think about that Reddit user, Filet-O-Fish1066.
Oh, yeah.
Who basically automated his entire job.
He took ownership to a whole other level.
Right.
And, while it ultimately led to him getting fired, it highlights how powerful it can be to find ways to exert control, even in the most mundane tasks.
Yeah, it's like even if you can't control every single thing about your job, you can control how you approach it.
Absolutely.
Right.
You can find ways to optimize, to learn new skills, to make the process more enjoyable. And this brings us to another crucial point, the power of reframing our thoughts. Remember when you were talking about feeling resentful as a doctor?
Don't remind me, it was rough.
But then you made a conscious choice to shift your mindset from have to get to.
Yeah.
Instead of feeling burdened by your work, you focus on the privilege of helping people.
Yeah, it was a total game changer.
Right.
It didn't make the long hours disappear or anything,
Yeah.
but it completely changed how I experienced them.
It's a perfect example of how we can control our thoughts and choose to focus on what empowers us, even in really challenging situations. We all have that power within us.
You know, it's funny how we often try to power through things alone, like being a lone wolf is like a badge of honor or something.
Right. It's almost like this weird misconception that we have to achieve everything on our own.
Yeah.
But the truth is, we are literally wired for connection. It's in our DNA.
And not just any connection, right? It's got to be the good stuff.
Oh, for sure.
Like, I love my morning barista,
Yeah.
but I wouldn't say our chats are exactly fueling my productivity.
Right. It's about surrounding ourselves with the people who really lift us up, who inspire us, who remind us why we do what we do, Think about those friends who you hang up the phone with and you're like, all right, I can conquer the world.
Yes.
That's relational energy at its finest.
Okay, now those are the kinds of connections I need more of in my life.
Right.
And you know what else I was thinking about?
What's that?
We were talking about competition
Yep.
earlier. But what if we could somehow transform that competitive energy into something more positive?
Ooh.
Yeah.
I love where you're going with this. There was a fascinating study where people were told that they were collaborating on a puzzle with a teammate,
Okay.
even though they were actually working alone.
Wait, seriously, they had no idea.
They had no idea.
Yeah.
And guess
Well,
what? The people who believed they were part of a team, they stuck with the puzzle longer, and they actually enjoyed it more.
That's wild. So just believing you're on a team, even if it's all in your head, can boost your motivation.
It's definitely worth a try.
I'm going to have to try this.
Right. It all comes down to shifting from a competitor mindset to what we might call a comrade mindset,
Okay, I like that.
right? Because when we see ourselves as part of a team, we're more likely to support each other, to celebrate each other's wins, to lift each other up when we stumble.
It's like that feeling of camaraderie you get when you're all working towards the common goal, like you're all in it together.
Exactly. And you know what else strengthens those bonds?
Yeah.
Finding those moments of synchronicity.
Okay, synchronicity sounds a little mystical for me. What are we talking about here?
Think about those moments when you're just totally in sync with someone,
Okay.
like you're on the same wavelength.
Yeah.
There was this really cool study where they had people tap their hands to a musical beat,
Okay, I'm picturing a drum circle right now.
pretty much.
Okay.
And the people who tapped in sync with others, they felt more connected and they were more likely to help each other out later.
Wow. So just like finding those shared rhythms, even in small ways, can strengthen our relationship.
Totally. We're hardwired to connect through those shared experiences.
That's pretty cool. And you know what else gives us that connection boost?
What's that?
Helping others.
Oh, tell me about it.
Okay, I have a feeling you're about to drop some serious science on me about the help goes high.
Helping others isn't just good karma. It actually triggers the release of feel-good hormones in the brain, like oxytocin.
Hmm.
So it's a win-win. You feel good, the person you helped feels good.
It's like a superpower we all possess.
It really is.
I am here for any and all superpowers. But seriously, sometimes it's hard to find the time or energy to help others, even when you really want to.
Oh, yeah.
So, any advice for like squeezing in more kindness?
It doesn't have to be this big, grand gesture.
Okay.
Even small acts of kindness can make a huge difference. Buy a colleague, a coffee offer, to listen to a friend who's having a rough day.
Right.
Those little things, they add up.
They really do. And you know what else is a small thing that I think can have a surprisingly big impact?
What's that?
Asking for help.
Oh, the Benjamin Franklin effect.
Yes, that story still blows my mind.
Mhm.
Ben Franklin asks his rival for a favor and they end up becoming buddies.
It's true.
What is this sorcery?
Human psychology.
Yeah.
When we ask for help, it breaks down those walls that we put up,
Mhm.
and it creates this sense of shared experience. Plus, it shows the other person that we trust and value their opinion.
So we're kind of like hardwired to connect through those little acts of vulnerability. I'm starting to think that connection is like the secret ingredient to like everything.
It's definitely a key ingredient in feel-good productivity.
It really is.
And you know what else is crucial?
What's that?
Good old-fashioned communication.
Okay.
And not just any communication.
Yeah.
We're talking over-communication.
Yes. Over communication. My love language. I have learned that the hard way, especially like running my own business.
Right.
Assuming that people just get it is like a recipe for disaster.
So true. They underestimate how much communication is needed to really keep things running smoothly, both in our work lives and our personal lives. It's always better to over-communicate than to leave things unsaid and risk confusion or conflict.
And it's not just about the quantity of communication, but the quality too.
For sure.
Like when someone shares good news with us, are we just saying, oh, that's nice?
Yeah.
Or are we really like celebrating their win with them?
You hit the nail on the head. Active constructive responding is what we call that expressing genuine excitement. And celebrating those wins, big or small, can make a huge difference in our relationships.
So instead of just saying like, congrats on the promotion, I should be saying like, that's amazing. You've been working so hard. You totally deserve it. I'm so excited to see what you do next.
Now you're getting it's about making people feel seen and appreciated.
Okay, love that. And then on the flip side, when it comes to giving constructive criticism,
Yeah.
how do we make sure it's actually constructive
Right.
and not just hurtful?
That's where radical candor comes in.
Okay.
It's about caring personally while challenging directly.
So it's like a feedback sandwich, but instead of soggy bread, we've got radical honesty and heartfelt encouragement.
Exactly.
Yeah, like it.
Focus on the behavior, not the person.
Great.
And always come from a place of wanting to help them grow.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into feel-good productivity,
Yes.
I think the biggest takeaway for me is that it's not just about working smarter. It's about working in a way that feels good both for ourselves and for the people around us.
I love that it's about finding joy in the journey, not just the destination.
And sometimes the most productive thing we can do is like hit pause, connect with someone who lights us up, and remember that we're all in this together.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, that's a wrap on this deep dive into feel-good productivity. We hope you enjoyed it. And now, go forth and conquer those to-do lists with a little more joy and a lot less burnout.